new year, new me. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. This is my year, etc. How much progress have you made? How much change in your behavior or your structure or your growth have you actually made? More likely than not, you're back to the same old bull BS, same old habits, same old routine as December, November, October, September, August of 2023. Wash, rinse, repeat. Wash, rinse, repeat. Have you actually changed your process, changed how you do things, changed your goals, your perception on how you are progressing in your life? Because there will always be failures, setbacks, frustrations. An employee might quit. Your team member might do something different than you expected them to. Things change, the weather change, a freeze comes through. Things don't go as planned. So you must learn to be adaptable. Most people, if you throw a monkey wrench in their system or in their process, they just don't know how to handle it. They fall apart. If things don't go as planned, they're so wound up because they're not adaptable that they often give up. Don't let that be you. Don't let that be you. It is easier to become adaptable or learn to be adaptable if you always keep in mind the first two concepts. Be the standard, set the example, and do the hard things. Yo, what's up, everybody? This is the End-to-End Podcast, and I'm your host, Dr. Yun Win, and as my friends affectionately call me the Ninja or Prolific Ninja on my socials, my fans are my friends, so you can call me Ninja too. This is the End-to-End Podcast, the Alpha to the Omega, the beginning to the end, talking about life, motivation, drive, self-improvement, success, fulfillment, and offering you morsels in this all-you-can-eat buffet called life. We're back in the studio after a hard freeze through Houston, Texas. Glad to be back. Before I get into it, offering you the third concept to help you reach your goals in 2024. I want to start the episode as I start every day. And if you're new to the show or if you've been listening, you know that I start my day by expressing some gratitude to God, the universe, for another day to be exceptional. This morning's word that popped in my head immediately was exceptional. So I thank God, the universe, for an opportunity to do that. And so therefore, I want to start the episode by thanking you all out there for helping building and supporting the End-to-End Podcast community. We only grow the show through you, the audience. I do this on my own dime, on my own time, spend a lot of money, a lot of people's time and effort and energy to get these episodes and shorts and briefs to you. So the only way we grow the show is if you share it. So we do that based on value. If you got any value out of this show or any other show, even 0.00001% value, please do like, comment, follow, share, subscribe. As I say, if your knowledge swole, share the show. That's how we grow. And my gosh, it has been growing tremendously. So I want to thank you and express gratitude towards that. As I mentioned, there was a hard freeze that ran through Houston for the past 3 days. And that gets into the third concept I want to talk about. So we're in middle of January, or by the time you hear this episode, we're in the last full week of January. So the question again I have is, everybody has these New Year's resolutions. I'm going to new year, new me. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. This is my year, etc. How much progress have you made? How much change in your behavior or your structure or your growth have you actually made? More likely than not, you're back to the same old bull BS, same old habits, same old routine as December, November, October, September, August of 2023. Wash, rinse, repeat. Wash, rinse, repeat. Have you actually changed your process, changed how you do things, changed your goals, your perception on how you are progressing in your life? Now, if you have been, fantastic. Nothing could make me more happy. You're on your way to, fulfilling our mission of this podcast, which is to inspire billions of people across the planet to live to their fullest controllable potential. And so you are taking control of your potential, and I applaud you and I support you 1,000 million, bazillion, quadrillion %, as my daughter would say, right? But more likely than not, you're not. on your way. You resorted back to your same old habits, reverted back to your same old habits. Despite all that emotion and motivation and I want to do it, this is it. A lot of people just go back to where they were. And so with that, I wanted to help you make those changes. So we talked about 2 principles before, which is the primary one, set your standard and be the example. We talked about that on the very first episode of 2024. The second concept, which was do the hard things, right? So set the standard, be the example. Number 2 concept, do the hard things. If you do those 2 things, you're more than 50% of the way towards actually changing how you do things and more towards your success goals, your success path. The third thing, and this applies to the cold freeze I just went through, and I'll tell you why in a minute. You have to learn to be adaptable within that construct. Adaptability is huge. Why is adaptability huge? Well, nothing ever goes as planned. Sometimes lightning will strike and everything goes as planned. But 99.9999% of the time, things do not go as planned. You can plan it out, write the business plan, think about all the contingencies, all the variables, work on the S curve that I talk about in one of the prior episodes on how to actually plan. But nothing goes as planned. Nothing. Because there will always be failures, setbacks, frustrations. An employee might quit. Your team member might do something different than you expected them to. Things change. The weather change. A freeze comes through. Things don't go as planned. So you must learn to be adaptable. Now, there's a range of adaptability, which is, I don't care. I'll just do whatever. That is not what I'm talking about. Well, if it tells me this, I'll do this. Then you're just like a plastic bag floating in the wind. You don't want to do that because you have no direction. So the other end of the range is adaptability within the construct of the first 2 concepts, which is set the standard, be the example, do the hard thing. And then you're adapting around those 2 things. You see how that works? Once you set the standard, that's your standard. That's immovable. But you're being adaptable around that standard as the environment, as things that are out of your control change. You see how that works? So you're not just wisping in the wind like a plastic bag, adaptable, do whatever. Oh, the current's taking me this way. Okay, let me just go that way. We're not doing that. What I am saying is you got to be adaptable around your standards. Right? You're trying to live to your fullest controllable potential. Well, what can you control? Your standards, being the example, and doing the hard things. And you're being adaptable around that. So, for example, hard freeze coming through. Like, whether it's 50% right or wrong, you never know, but it came this time. So I have all these plans around this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Freeze comes through, offices close, there a lot of people, whatever, city stops, traffic collisions everywhere, icy roads, etc. I have to be adaptable around my standards, around doing the hard things within that construct now. I have to push things off, refocus scheduling, refocus projects within that standard because my standard is I want to get certain things done. And I got to do them. It's the hard things. I'll give you another example. So, ran my first ever half marathon on Sunday, right before the freeze came through. First ever half marathon. I've been training up to it for the last, quote unquote training, depends how you call it that. I'm not a distance running kind of guy. I'm a sprinting guy. A lot of power, a lot of energy at the start, push through, rest, and, reload. I'm not a constant runner like that. But did some training. The most I ever ran in training is 8 miles. The half marathon is 13.1. Was a bucket list thing for me. Finished in 2 hours and 9 minutes, average 9 minute and 52 second pace per mile, which is fantastic supposedly for myself. Finished in the top third of close to, I want to say, 14,000 people. So not too bad for my first time out. But my point is that during the course of those 2 hours, of running, things did not go as planned, right? My goal for the half marathon was honestly under 3 hours and 30 minutes, because I'm thinking the most I've ever ran was 8 miles, and so after the 8 mile, I'm probably gonna have to start walk running, and that would slow me down. But my second goal, which would override my first goal, was to try to finish the half marathon without stopping, without stopping to walk, like constantly run the entire thing, right? So that's what I did, actually. I ran the entire thing without stopping, and therefore I got the 2 hours and 9 minutes. But my point is, the whole race did not go as planned for me, right? Within the standards I set for myself, finish under 3:30 or don't stop, I had to adapt the entire race. So the first primary adaptation is when I'm training, I'm just running. It's just me running on a trail, on a whatever sidewalk, whatever street. I'm just running by myself. As I mentioned, there are 14,000 people running the marathon. So the first thing about adaptability I had to worry about was running in a sea of 13,000 people. So in all actuality, you run a lot more than 13.1 miles, because you have a lot of, within the path that they give you in the street, you're running side to side, avoiding slower runners, avoiding groups of people. So you're actually running a lot, not a lot, but relatively speaking, you're running more than you anticipated running. Side to side, front and back, people are passing you, you're slowing down, you're cutting across the entire street. So, you run 10 yards to go up 2 yards, that kind of thing. So you're running a lot more, right? The second part of adaptability is in training, when I'm on my, training run, I stretch, I walk, and then I start running. And so within 10 minutes or so, I'm already running. In this situation, the way it's set up, you are literally in a bullpen for about an hour before you actually go outside, and then you're congested, like packed like sardines, slowly inching your way to the start line. So you don't actually get to start running. Your time doesn't start for like an hour and a half to 2 hours before you're mentally getting ready to run. So that is entirely different than how I train, right? All my planning had to be adaptable. Like in training, I would grab a fistful of blueberries, crush them, do my 10-minute warm-up, and start running. Here, I thought the same thing. Let me grab my fistful of blueberries and, go register, get in line, and start running. No, I grab my fistful of blueberries, but I don't start running till an hour and a half later. So I had this duration of an extra hour and a half, 2 hours, nothing in my stomach, trying to run 13 miles. Adaptability, still in my construct, under 3:30 or stop without stopping. The third adaptability is during the course of the run, different parts of my body started to feel, a lot of pain. So I'm adjusting my technique of running on the fly. I'm trying to be adaptable to where like my shin is getting tight. So I have to spread my toes a little bit wider to relieve the tension on my shins, right? My knee is starting to tighten up. So I have to adjust the angle of impact on the street as I'm running to alleviate a little bit of that pressure. But it's still within that same construct of finish under 3:30, don't stop, right? The congestion, in this particular marathon, I had to literally hurdle a stroller because there were two strollers coming together, stopped right in the middle, and I was in the middle, in between of them, between the two. So through the whole thing, there's a whole bunch of adaptability issues still within the construct. Now, I do all this just to say that as an example, a micro example of how you should approach your goals of success. Nothing ever goes exactly as planned. In fact, if you plan it right, there's probably going to be about a 30 to 40% deviation above and below your actual plan. Things can drop 30, 40%. Things can be higher, 30, 40%, right? Now, going into, like I said, I only trained up to 8 miles. So going into the 9th mile, it would have been easy for me to say, okay, I've hit a personal best. Let me just slow down and walk, stop and walk, right? In my mind, I'm like, nope, can't adapt that way. I'm already here. Keep going. Going into the 10th mile, huge, massive headwind. So I'm going from a 9:30 pace to a 10:15, 10:20 pace. Could have easily said, hey, I'm still up 2 miles better than my personal best. We're almost there. Let me walk it the rest of the way. Nope. Mile 11, approaching downtown Houston to the finish line, it's an uphill grade, probably about a 5-6% incline. It's painful because you're tired at the end of the race. Could have easily checked it in. Hey, man, 3 miles past my personal best. We're almost done. Let me just stop and coast it in. Nope. Kept going. Enter into downtown. Downtown being the finish line in my mind. Realizing that now we're in downtown, but the finish line is on the other side of downtown. Another mile. So got to run through that. Could have easily checked it in. Hey, man, we're a mile out. Let's just chill, relax, walk it through to the end. Way ahead my 3:30 pace. Nope. My standard was not to stop the entire time. The mind games, crazy. Told myself to not quit probably 200 times throughout the race after the 8th mile. Don't quit. Don't stop. You're already here. Right? It's that whole idea of how to adapt to the environment, to the circumstance, consistent with the standards you set and doing the hard thing. Okay? Most people, if you throw a monkey wrench in their system or in their process, they just don't know how to handle it. They fall apart. If things don't go as planned, they're so wound up because they're not adaptable that they often give up. Don't let that be you. Don't let that be you. It is easier to become adaptable or learn to be adaptable if you always keep in mind the first two concepts. Be the standard, set the example, and do the hard thing. Because what adaptability means is that you have now, instead of one choice of things to do, you have a multitude of choices of things you can do to adapt to the situation. So you have to pick one, right? And that's being adaptable. It's not the one you wanted to do, but it's one of the 100 other options you have now to adapt to the circumstance. So out of those 100 other options, you want to pick the one that is closest to your standard and is the hard thing. That helps keep you pushing forward in the momentum towards your goals. And momentum, my friends, is everything when you're talking about pathway to success. It's so hard to get momentum, and more importantly, it's so hard to keep momentum. And when you lose that momentum, you got to start all over again. That's where most people quit. Okay? So to keep that momentum, be adaptable to the option that is consistent with point number 1, setting your standard, and then point number 2, doing the hard thing. Then when you adapt to that, you keep going. And that's what it is. That's what it is. So one more lesson for the end of January, and that way you could take these 4 core principles and apply them to the rest of the year. We'll talk about that one in the next episode. But again, to review, number 1, set the standard, be the example. Number 2, do the hard thing. Now, number 3, be adaptable, consistent with numbers 1 and 2. Okay? Hopefully you can apply these principles to your mindset, your framework, your plans for your path to success in 2024. Absolutely, personally, I'm absolutely crushing it. I've been around people that are absolutely crushing it through the first 3 or 4 weeks of January. Absolutely crushing it. They're applying the principles that I'm talking about to their own personal life, in e-commerce, at my law firm, with my crypto, in my circle of network of friends that are all about accountability and getting shit done, they are absolutely crushing it. There's no reason why you shouldn't be too. So, glad to bring you another episode. I'm going to end my episode as I end my day. So if you're new to the show, or if you've been listening, you know I end my day with an expression of gratitude to God, the universe, thankful for another day to be inspirational, another day to make an impact on this world. So I want to thank you all for listening to the show. Like I mentioned earlier, I do this on my own dime, on my own time. So the only way we grow is if you share the show. So if you learned something, found something valuable, found something you want to share, please do share the show. If you're knowledgeable, share the show. That is how we grow. So with that, I want to say be great today, but be even more grateful. Looking forward to bringing you another episode very, very soon.